This video describes how you can use Cloudera Manager to back up data using HDFS or Hive Replication. You can also save point-in-time backups of HDFS files using Snapshots, which are discussed in a different video. You can use Replication to enable a disaster recovery plan by using Replication to copy HDFS files and directories or Hive databases. Using Replication, you can move data to a different cluster, perhaps when migrating hardware or when moving data from a development environment to a production environment. Encrypted data at rest can be replicated, and you can configure encryption for data transfer. HDFS replication can copy data to a different file path on the same cluster to another cluster managed by the same instance of Cloudera Manager, or to a remote cluster. Hive replication copies a Hive database from one cluster to another managed by the same instance of Cloudera Manager, or to a remote cluster managed by a different instance. You can schedule these replication jobs to run on a recurring schedule or to run on demand. To create a replication job, you first define a Pier instance of Cloudera Manager that contains the source data that you want to copy. For this demonstration, we are going to replicate some sales data from the development cluster to the production cluster. The data is contained in a directory named Sales History, and we only want to copy the data for the year 2016. Before scheduling the replication, we need to define a Pier. To define a Pier, log into the Cloudera Manager admin console for the destination cluster and select Backup Piers. Click the Add Pier button and enter a name for the Pier, its URL, and the credentials required to access the Cloudera Manager instance. To replicate data stored in HDFS, click Backup Replication Schedules and click Create Schedule and select HDFS Replication. The source drop-down list displays the clusters managed by the remote instance of Cloudera Manager. We select the cluster managed by the dev source Pier that contains the data that we want to replicate. The destination drop-down list displays the available clusters where data can be replicated. Next, we enter the path and file specification for the source data and the path where we want the replicated data to be copied to on the destination cluster. Optionally, click Add Exclusion to enter a regular expression to exclude files or paths from the replication. The Advanced Options section allows you to select whether to use the MapReduce service or Yarn to perform the copying operations. For better resource management, you can also enter a scheduler pool where the job will run. Optionally, enter the username to run the job in the Run As field if it's different from the default user HDFS. If your cluster uses Kerberos, you must specify a full Kerberos principal name. If you also select the Preserve Permissions option, enter a username that is an HDFS superuser and that has read access for all the source paths on the source cluster. There are other options you can choose here which are described in the Cloudera Manager BDR documentation. Next, you can configure the schedule for the replication. You can select Immediate for a one-time replication that runs after you save the schedule. Or you can select Once for a one-time replication that runs at a specific time. Or you can select Recurring to define a replication job that repeats at regular intervals. Click Save Schedule. The job now displays in the replication schedule list. We want to run the replication now, so we select Actions, Run Now. When the job finishes, its status updates on the replication schedules page. Click the Actions menu to perform actions such as viewing the history of the job, deleting the job, and editing its configuration. You can also disable the schedule, run it now, or perform a dry run, which you can use to verify the job without actually copying data. Select Show History to view the command history of the job. Expand the job to view additional information. Click the View link to view the output of the command and any error messages. If you have unresolved problems with the replication, click Collect Diagnostic Data to open a dialog box where you can create a bundle of diagnostic data to send to Cloudera support for troubleshooting. After the replication is completed, we can open the HDFS file browser for the destination cluster and verify that the files have been replicated. You can create schedules for the replication of Hive databases in a similar fashion. First, click Create Schedule and select Hive Replication. By default, a Hive replication replicates all Hive databases. Deselect the Replicate All option to specify specific databases. To maintain database consistency, you should also enable snapshots for the Hive warehouse directory, and a dialog box appears to remind you of this. To enable this directory for snapshots, open the HDFS file browser and navigate to the Hive warehouse directory and click the Enable Snapshots button. This video has provided a short overview of HDFS and Hive replication. For more detailed information, see the online Cloudera documentation by clicking Support Help.